are all the coast members of the 3 counties, every one of them. All representatives from the 3 coast counties and various chairmen whose committees and subject areas are being most affected, such as appropriations, judiciary, marine resources, ports and harbors, wildlife, tourism, conservation, and gaming. Our purpose is manifold, primarily as we start to learn the extent of the damage today of the pollution and what might be expected. Nobody can tell that, but what might be expected in the future and how it's being dealt with. And number 2, to find out as best we can, as soon as we can, about the tangible losses to individuals, to corporations, to local and state government entities. And how can we expect these proven losses, how can we expect proven losses to be covered by the responsible companies? To the covered and made whole to the various, as much as possible, to the various individuals, corporations, and government entities. We know today that there are many citizens, many citizens, local citizens, local officials, elected officials locally, and appointed officials locally, and state and federal officials, and corporate leaders and workers laboring to deal with this disaster. Our thoughts and prayers have been every day with them and will continue to be. They can't be with us today, and they don't need to be with us today. They're trying to make a difference where they can. My last statement is this. In the last few weeks, the state of Mississippi has experienced almost unprecedented disaster with tornadoes and floods and, of course, the oil spill. Our governor has been, I've been with him many days, or not many days, but I've been with him on many occasions where he's been out in the field dealing with this. There's not a governor in America that's any better prepared and done any better job in dealing with disasters than our Governor Parker. My respect is unlimited to him as he's worked with people of this state during these bad times. He knows what's going on. He knows how to deal with it as best he can. And so today I salute Governor Barber for his efforts, and I know they'll continue. I look forward to these hearings again. This is just the beginning. This committee will be involved in months to come, as I said. I thank each of you for participating on behalf of the people of this state.
Thank you, Speaker McCoy. Like the Speaker said, I'm standing in this morning for Speaker Comprella, who actually chairs the committee. When a man-made disaster occurs, whether it's in the form of an oil spill or a mine cave-in that we've heard about a lot lately, our first thoughts are with the families of those who may have lost loved ones and whose lives will never quite be the same. That's the way it should be. We must never forget that the first impact of such an event is too often loss of life. As a result, our efforts in understanding and recovery must include improvements to reduce such risk in the future. Now, the role of the Mississippi legislature is very limited in this area. A lot of this stuff comes out of the federal government. However, the Speaker, in appointing this committee, is asking us to look at what impact, both financial and social, this is going to have on the state of Mississippi, and in particular on the state government, our budget, and getting people back to work. Through testimony and panel discussion from key agencies both today and tomorrow, this special committee hopes to develop important perspectives and implications for future actions in 3 important areas. This, as the Speaker said, is the only beginning. First, what do we as a state know about damage assessment? How is damage being defined? How is it being monitored? When an oil spill of this magnitude occurs, some of our early thoughts turn to the species and habitats that are directly threatened. What is our assessment process for doing this? And once we get all the information, what do we do with it? That's one of our purposes today. The damage from the spill, though, is not just environmental, it is social and economic as well. And how do we track these assessments, and what do we do with the information that we get from it? The second important factor that we're here today for is what do we know about mitigation efforts? Again, we can talk about mitigation from the environmental perspective, but it's also important to discuss mitigation from the economic and social perspective. Who, for example, is responsible for designing and implementing these efforts? As importantly, who is responsible for tracking the costs, their costs, and measuring their impact? When I was on the coast 4 weeks ago, it struck me that there really wasn't a clear indication 4 or 5 weeks ago of who is actually at the top of the food chain. We asked the Coast Guard who's in charge. The Coast Guard said, well, it's BP, it's the Mineral Mining Service, MMS, and it's the Coast Guard. But who's at the top of the food chain? Well, even the Coast Guard couldn't answer that. And I noticed about 2 weeks ago that the President finally put the Coast Guard in complete charge of this thing. So who is in charge of responding in building and receiving payments? The third is the general concern that revolves around issues of responsibility and compensation. Do we know how liability is being assessed and assigned, and the mechanisms that are in place? As a legislature, we need to know these things for our budgeting process, and also, as I've talked with the agency heads about, how is your agency impacted? Do you have enough people to handle this? What are you putting off in order to address this problem? And these are the things, the concerns I hope that we're able to discuss today.